1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We are on episode 101. It has been so long since I've done that intro.
Is it 101?
It's 101. We literally as if we had run a marathon and we got to the finish line and just collapsed. We hit 100 episodes and then stopped for a couple months.
We did. And then we did one episode and then we stopped for a couple months. Yeah, so the reason we're doing it today is because the other day I've been drinking.
And I thought, as one does.
There's a topic I want to discuss with Kaiser. Let's put it on a podcast because we love doing these. It's just sometimes coming up with fresh ideas every week can get a bit
especially
less enjoyable, more work.
Especially if we're not paying close attention to the news or current events.
Fuck news.
Well, news
is permanently depressing, at least where I live.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the kind of news where they're like, oh hey, here's the 17th war we're involved with. I'm talking about the news as in news that we give a shit about, what's going on with new video games coming out, or the fact that the 4090 is so big that it rips motherboards apart.
So shallow. I don't give a fuck about war-torn countries. Tell me about Deus Ex.
Yeah, I'm going to start this off with a fairly hot take. I, as an American, my entire life pretty much, my country has been involved with a bunch of wars that I don't give a shit about, that's not even close to, being, a threat to, anything in the U.S.
Well, apart from the wars that were with yourselves.
Well, I wasn't involved with that one.
No, while you were alive.
While I've been alive,
right,
yeah.
okay.
So I'm sick of the U.S. getting involved in every foreign nation's business, and I'm just you know what? Let's just take care of our own shit. Anyway, sorry. Let's not talk about that. What was the thing you wanted to talk about? So,
we were at the Board Game Cafe.
Yep.
And actually two things from the Board Game Cafe, but we'll start with one. The Red Rising board game.
And actually, worth a revisit of what this is. It's on the YouTube channel. We did a separate book review for it, but Red Rising was a book series.
We've also talked about it on the podcast before.
We have, yeah, but I think we it was on the podcast, but we clipped out just the segments we talked about the books and made it its own separate video. Anyway, we've talked about it. Great book series, sci-fi, the future. I think it's 800, 900,000 years in our future, something like that.
I don't think it's even that far, but I could be wrong. But what's interesting, aside from the thing that I saw, you have finally gotten around to book number 4.
Yeah, so when you first recommended I read these, and we were, I went through them and we talked about it on the podcast, I stopped at book 3 because
I warned you off of book 4.
Yeah, and it is a bit jarring. One of the things that they do in this book, so I listened to the audiobooks, and the audiobooks for these are quite good. The person they got to actually do the reading does a very good job. He has a fairly wide vocal range, can do a bunch of different accents, so you always know which character is talking in a scene. That's a talent that I have a lot of respect for. And they
if you want to see our voice acting, go and see Equestrian Bronte. Or no, the life and suffering of Sir Bronte.
Yeah, I mean, we had some fairly distinct voices, but occasionally we'd forget what voice we used for people. But the jarring thing in the fourth audiobook, is that guy's still there, and he still voices good chunks of the book. But then
quite a small part. But I think he has.
But I haven't gotten that far in it yet. But then they've also got these other new people who are voicing parts of the book as well.
Yeah. So every chapter it changes.
Yeah, and from what I'm seeing, I think if I remember correctly, the entire first 3 books were from the perspective of Darrow. Yes. And I think, from what I'm seeing so far, I think the chapters that are still from the perspective of Darrow are voiced by that guy. Yes. But then now they've added in new characters. So whenever it's from the perspective of a different person, it's being voiced by a different person, which
Darrow is definitely not the main character anymore.
Yeah, which makes sense because his character arc really came full circle in the first trilogy.
Yeah.
So I think that it makes sense that he wouldn't be the main character, moving forward, or at least not the main character. The thing but I do find the changes in voices a bit jarring. I've only ever read one other book series that did it.
Especially
audiobook
when
series.
one voice actor is quite clear and audible, and then the next one mumbles or has something different about it, and then you have to change the volume for each.
That is,
narrator.
God, that's the other issue, is if you have variable quality when it comes to the voice actors. The other series, I was thinking, are you familiar with the book Ender's Game?
Rings a bell.
It's a fairly famous sci-fi series, sci-fi book. I think it came out in the 70s, maybe. It's quite old. But the guy who wrote it has written a prequel trilogy to it. And a few years back, I listened to the audiobook versions of it when I was using Audible a lot when I had to commute long into work. And that series changes up the voice actor depending on whose perspective it's from. But in that one, all of the voice talent they're all the same level of quality. And on top of that, the characters are usually separated by long distances, so they very rarely have interactions. Because I do remember it was weird when it was from a different person's perspective, and that new person had to do the voice for somebody else who had heard from another voice actor. Anyway, sorry, we're getting way off this. You were talking about the board game for this series.
Yeah, so we were sitting down playing a different game, and Alicia pointed out, oh look, there's one called Red Rising. That's based off of a game that you and Kaiser played, right? I was like, no. But
it's a book. I played that video game, but no, it's a book.
And upon closer inspection, well, that's actually one of the things I was thinking about, but I'll get around to that again. Had a close look at it, and it was in fact based on the novels. And I looked at the back, and I was like, oh, fuck yeah, it's got, Ragnar, it's got Severo. And then I was like, hang on a second. It doesn't have Cassius.
That seems like a fairly large omission.
Yeah.
It didn't have Cassius, and it had Io. She, spoilers, dies pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, I don't even know if that's a spoiler, really.
Yeah, I mean, considering
that's like saying in Star Wars the galaxy falls into ruin. Yeah, it falls into ruin the first 10 fucking minutes of the first episode. So I'm wondering if who's Orion? He's a blue.
Yeah,
I can't remember who
she.
was.
Orion's a woman, and it's a she. It's the captain of Darrow's ship. I recently just finished the original trilogy again, which is why I just started the fourth, just for the benefit of the people listening. So a lot of these names are very fresh in my memory.
I'm wondering if all the people on the box were allies.
Part of the Rising.
Darrow. Yeah. Because Mustang was there, Io, Evie, although she turns out to be a bit of a fucking nut job.
Yeah, she isn't really it was interesting they kept her on there because
and the purple, whose name I can't remember.
Mickey. Yeah, I think you'll find they're called violets, not purples. Right.
Yeah, it's been years since I've read the book.
Again, it's fresh in my mind now. But yeah, Evie and Io. I was kind of surprised to see both of them on there because Evie makes a cameo in the second book after being a minor character for a little bit in the first book, and then Io, it's not really much of a spoiler. She's gone within the first chapter or two.
Yeah, that's the other thing I mentioned when I was looking at it. I was like, yeah, so this girl is around and then dies, and then this girl gets introduced. So what time frame is this? Because they can't coexist, really.
Yeah, that's why I was about to ask this. What does the game look like it is? Like, what's the gameplay for this board game? Did you not you didn't feel like cracking open looking at the instruction book?
We it quite near the end of the of our session, and it was a really hot day, so we went off to get a beer.
Gotcha.
But it's something I'm definitely going to be looking at, because if it does look good, well, maybe there's a digital copy online, because there's a digital copy of a lot of games these days.
And the other thing is maybe they have a version we can play on Tabletop Simulator.
Because I think we'd both love to do that. In fact, we both probably want to have it on the channel.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because I think it would pair very well. But yeah, so that's a realm of possibility. I really just hope that they don't do a Peaky Blinders with it and have made just a shit game to go with a great IP.
Yeah. Well, that's what
we both remember that.
It's the cash grab IP. This was always a big thing. Like they did it with when the new Star Trek movies came out, right? The ones that started in like 2007 or 8 or whenever they were. They made a couple like video game tie-ins. I think one of them came out for the Xbox 360, and it was dog shit.
Yeah.
I never played it, but I knew someone who did, and I watched them play a bit of it. I think it was on the Xbox 360, and yeah, it was just... It's the cash grab movie tie-in game. Like, it used to be big. They did it when the new Michael Bay Transformers movies came out.
Yes. Wait, do you mean the movies were a cash grab or the games
were
a cash grab? Because the games were arguably better than the movies.
I only played like one or two of them.
We played War for Cybertron, which was excellent.
No, not those. Not those, because those weren't based on the movies at all. Those were based
on the movies. Right, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. The ones that were like, they pulled directly from the Michael Bay version of the Transformers and made a movie out of it. But War for Cybertron and those games were fucking amazing.
But they definitely came out after Michael Bay, which is what
they did. Yeah. They were capitalizing on the people like me who were huge fans of the old series from the 80s.
Yeah. So considering how obviously Peaky Blinders fucked it up, making a digital game of Peaky Blinders, if Red Rising was to become a digital game, what genre do you think would best suit Red Rising?
It would have to be some variety of RPG, I think.
Okay, so here's my thoughts. It would lend itself very well to a Battlegrounds game.
Oh,
based
so
on
like a
the
tactical
first book.
Like a tactical top-down kind of strategy game.
Based on, like, you get assigned a house, right? And then, much like in the first book, you kind of have to invade the other castles and capture or kill any people you came across. Go on.
Here's my thinking. And it's going to depend entirely what they do with the IP, right? Because... Yeah. First of all, for those that don't know, a large portion of the first book is essentially Harry Potter for Spartans, because like they go to essentially this institute, this academy, and they have to. It's a survival school basically. They have to build their own civilizations, tough it out, and battle with each other until one house is on top. Now, if it was a generic year and not specifically following the story of Red Rising, like say it took place a couple decades before the books.
Right. Yeah.
Then I think it would be great as an open world RPG, because you could go through the Institute and become the top house, whatever. But if they're following the books, because there are certain plot points that need to happen, I think it needs to be a little bit more of a linear RPG.
I don't think it would be following... Yeah, if it was following the books, it would have to be a story-based progression. But let's be real, most game companies aim for replayability these days and not good storytelling.
Yeah, they're just, they want to keep you on the loop. Yeah. Keep you on the hamster wheel. Which... that's something once we're off this, I do have a game I want to talk about that fits right into that mold. But yeah, so what do you think? Like, yeah, so you were saying like a tactical kind of game.
Yeah,
but are you thinking like what's that series called? Warhammer? Not like Warhammer 40K, but the Warhammer Dawn of War. Yeah, those are the games I'm thinking of.
No, well, because like I said, because I'm going for what a company would realistically do these days. I mean, Battlegrounds are slightly old now, actually. But I mean, like, PUBG style, but kind of like a cross between For Honor and PUBG.
I could see that.
And then you could like farm wolves for, cloaks to increase your stealth or something.
Yeah, and build up items and things. I'm thinking of some of the more hardcore servers I've seen with people playing Ark Survival Evolved, where they form into
hide inside of horses that are dead. Sorry.
Oh, and then a couple of the housemates get way too into it. God.
But yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I can't really think of many other. Actually, no, I'm like.
Yeah, if we're talking about games that actually are.
It's kind of be like Magic the Gathering, actually, except instead of the elements, you have the different colours. This is an entirely different idea. But so you'd have like the pink decks.
I think it would be cool to play through. Yeah, I'd be interested to play through any kind of game that's set kind of before Darrow was even born in the books, like at the peak of the society, and you have to
compete for the crown.
Yeah, or you're playing like high politics, or maybe you have the option to play as one of the other like high or mid colors, and I don't know. There's a lot of different ways they could do it.
Oh, like a civilization game.
Yeah, basically.
Where to get science, you get more blues. To get more culture, you get more violets and pinks. And then if you want war, you're going for the blacks.
You mean the Obsidians?
Yeah, you know what I mean.
I do, but for YouTube, it's important that we clarify.
Yeah.
So the Obsidians in the story are basically, they've made like super Vikings, and they're like these white-haired, pale-skinned Norsemen that are like huge and violent and crazy.
A dumb Witcher.
A bit. So I was thinking of what you said earlier with a lot of the modern games that are getting released being sort of keep people on the wheel, keep people playing, replayability, repetition. I recently finally beat a game from 2018 that I have wanted to beat for a long time, but has just not... I never got back around to it. Like I got stuck at one point, lost interest, and never got back to it. The game is Kingdom Come Deliverance, and the studio that made it set out with the intent of making as historically accurate a game as they could, in terms of it's set in like 1400s. It's in that area, like the Holy Roman Empire, the Southern Holy Roman Empire. So there's like, Austria, Hungary, Bavaria, Saxony, all those other tiny Germanic kingdoms, all in that area around that time. And when they say like as realistic as possible, like you're playing through most of the game as like, what the fuck was that? As a semi-educated peasant. So like your dad was like a blacksmith.
Yep.
And
sorry, I didn't think that would make so much noise.
It's all right. What was it?
It's a keg of beer.
Nice. So you end up getting set off on this journey. You the historically accurate bits they did for it were like If you're not well dressed, people will treat you like shit because they're like, oh, you're a peasant. But if you're wearing like full plate mail and it's all cleaned up and everything like that, people just assume you're a knight and, you know, call you sir when they talk to you. Yeah. You also, in like cutscenes and conversations with nobility, you have to be careful not to be a douchebag to them because they can just walk all over you. Yeah. The game is quite hard in it takes the old like immersive sim perspective of if you pick up a sword and you have no points into swordsmanship, like you haven't practiced with it at all, or you haven't had anyone like train you in it, you're gonna be shit at it and you're not gonna be able to do any damage. You're gonna run out of stamina really quick. Same thing with like defense or like horsemanship. If you try to like hop on a horse with low skill, the horse might throw you off randomly. Like it's gonna be harder to control, that sort of thing. And once I really got into it, it was very satisfying. It was a satisfying sense of progression because it really felt rewarding as you went up the skill trees and different things. Like once I got up high, like it was a struggle for a while trying to make sure I had enough money to repair my armor because if I didn't, then I get my ass kicked by bandits. Yeah. Figuring out which fights to pick and which ones to just run the fuck away from. And knowing that if I win the fight, then I can loot these bandits of their armor, sell it, and use that to potentially get somebody to train me in swords better or something like that. Yeah. And so there were some cheesy bits, there were some broken bits, but I finally beat the game this weekend. And it was a very good feeling just getting to the end of it. And I'm like, because it was a long road to get there, but I had maxed out several skills. My character knew how to read by the end, which he didn't in the beginning.
Nice. Big achievement.
Yeah. The way they did skill progression on reading was interesting. So, obviously, the player's going to know how to read, hopefully. Yeah. And
God, that'd be embarrassing.
So
still can't read it.
So as you level up your reading skill, what happens is like if you're reading a book and your reading skill is low, the letters will be kind of jumbled up.
Yeah.
So it'll be like an anagram and you have to kind of work out what it actually says. Yeah. But as your reading skill gets better, there are less of those jumbled things. And so it was a really cool way to simulate your character not knowing how to read and then progressing through it.
Mm. When you said about the way that your character dresses means that people treat you differently, I started playing. I was really bored one day. I started playing an elf on Arcanum.
You were telling me about this. It was a very different experience.
Yeah, I got to the first town and everyone wasn't like, "F you, you short stack of nothing."
For the benefit of those who haven't watched the Twitch streams and have only been watching the YouTube stuff, because I don't think we've put anything on YouTube from Arcanum.
I don't think so.
Arcanum is an older, like traditional isometric RPG, and we've been playing through it on stream, and we played a gnome, and apparently everyone fucking hates gnomes.
Yeah.
So, but Blue has tried out, like everyone we talk to, they're like, "Get out of here, you dirty gnome! Like, why are you talking to me?" And we have to be really polite.
Even Virgil a bit,
yeah,
is a bit hesitant. But no, I have gone into the game, and there has been no one who has been unhappy with me. I just walked up to the town mayor. I was like, "Hey, make me your deputy." He was like, "Okay."
We'd be honored to have you, Sir Elf.
It's kind of weird. I was quite tempted to go Dark Elf, but the maximum happiness reputation good boy points is -15. Which I feel like
railroaded.
That's like you're immediately hunted down by everyone, surely.
You're railroaded into being a villain. Yeah, the game has some interesting aspects to it. Like, it's certainly not easy, like, because you have to balance leveling up your traditional attributes like strength, charisma, dexterity, all that fun stuff.
Well, and it played like a completely different game, because I went with a spellcaster.
Oh, yeah.
Thought, okay, spells, that means I'm going to be like casting Firebolt on people, right? No. That is not what it means. Or at least, to my knowledge, because I was like, oh, spells, awesome. Now I can start, incinerating enemies. It's all... Spells are all just to aid you in doing something or do something funny. There's no, like, combat spells. You don't fight with magic. You have a fucking sword for that. And then you use the magic to charm people, to unlock doors, to bring corpses to life.
That's interesting because that's actually, and that's a parallel to the technology trees too, because technology in that game, you don't actually fight with technology, but you can. No, but that's not a tech skill.
Yeah, isn't it?
I don't think it is. I think
I mean, dexterity rules over it, but I think you need.
No, you're right. I think you're right. But aside from guns, I'm thinking like the other tech skills are like crafting or like bombs or traps or things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it's more offensive than the magic you're describing. The other thing that's interesting about this setting for people listening, the magic and technology are completely irreconcilable in this game. So if you like use magic near like a train or something like that, the train might just not work, or like the physics might stop working for some reason. And likewise,
mechanic.
Yeah, and likewise, technology may fuck up magic. And so if somebody's trying to use heal on a very tech-centered person, then the heal might cause them to blow up or something. It's a really cool setting. We've also been warned by one of our Twitch viewers that there's apparently some really fucked up stuff happening in the background with the half-orcs.
Well, no, we actually saw that quest completed.
Did we get all the way to the end of that one?
Yeah, we did. Because it was the guy around the side of the gentleman's club, and he started talking to us about that kind of stuff. But no, also, I haven't even got past the bridge with the thieves on it yet. Mainly because I don't want to side with the thieves. But also because there's a fuck ton of quests that we missed. Like, there is a lot of quests. And they're not even, like, stuck behind people not liking us areas. There's just, like, caves and shit that we never went in.
Huh. We'll have to go and check that out then. That explains why we felt so underleveled when we got to the city. Because if...
Also, one of the quests, and... I'm just going to say one aspect of the reward of it, right? Gave me plus 15 to good boy points.
Oh, man.
Which, if we'd known about that when we were trying to get the fucking dwarf on our side, would have saved us a hell of a lot of time.
Yeah.
We don't talk about the dwarf, though.
Yeah, he died under mysterious circumstances.
Yes, he tripped several times down the ladder. Yeah. There's another game. Actually, I've got lots of game news.
Keep going then. Talk about games.
Let's do one more game and then we'll have a break and then we'll
sounds good.
Relaunch. Okay, do you want another physical game or a digital game?
We just did a video game, so let's go to physical.
Okay. In the Board Game Cafe, the game that we were playing was called One Deck Galaxy. Now, Kaiser, you may know of a game called One Deck Dungeon, which we have played the digital version of.
Yep.
So we played originally we played One Deck Dungeon as a card game, Alicia and I. And we were in the store the other day, and there was a new releases shelf, and it had One Deck Galaxy on it. I thought, heck yeah. It's a nice thing to warm up with because we probably already know the rules. And, it's a simple-ish thing, right?
Yeah.
Wrong. There are so many fucking rules piled on top of One Deck Dungeon rules. Like...
a galaxy's worth.
Like, it's pitched almost in a fucking more friendly to children kind of way. Because on the front there's, like, a species where it's, like, turnip people. There's, like, floaty dragon people. There's... Khajiit kind of people. So it looks quite childlike. And then you start reading through the rules, and it's like, okay, on top of your normal 3 stats and your health, which are basically every token pretty much from One Deck Dungeon is either attack, range, or one other one. I can't remember. And
magic.
Health. I don't know. Having a blonde moment. There's 3 kinds of dice, and then there's your health. And that's basically all you need to know. In this, on top of that, there's also, you have a starport, you have
if you're talking about
world.
One Deck Dungeon, it's agility, strength, and
agility,
arcane.
that was one I couldn't remember. Yeah.
Yeah. Purple, yellow,
on top of that,
blue.
you have a spaceport, you have a home world, you have an adversary that fucks you every turn. You don't open doors in the same way. You can you attack all the doors at once. The adversary escalates, and then as you damage him, he gets weaker as opposed to getting tougher as you go on. And there's science. There's your fleet, your star fleet, and you're having to move all of these things around each turn.
Yeah, I was going to say this in my mind is just nowhere near One Deck Dungeon.
No. It's a lot more complex. And we had the guy... So I gave it a good try first, because I was like, oh, this is a lot like the game that we played before. Then when I realised that it wasn't, he came over and sat down with us, explained the rules for about half an hour. We did a practice round with him there. He left, and then I immediately had 5 different things I didn't know. I believe it, I was fucking focusing hard. But yeah, Jeepers, very confusing. What I did like is that apparently they have tutorial videos, so I'm going to watch some tutorials for it and then come back to it fresh next time we go there. But yeah, it definitely seems like the kind of game... If I pick that game up first, there's no way in fuck I'd even be trying to learn it.
Mm.
It's definitely the kind of game where the creators have gone, okay, people loved our original game. Now let's make something for those same people that loved the original game, where it's a step further. It's a more advanced. It's not. It's the chaff from the wheat.
Yeah, a much more complex version of it,
which I'd love to learn, and I will do. Yeah. But it's going to take real effort to actually learn the rules.
That's always a risky proposition, though. Do you want...
It is.
So if you because you have a formula that works, and sometimes, having the simple, streamlined formula, that's what you want. But if you add too much stuff to it, it actually can make the game worse. So it'll be interesting once you've actually had a chance to learn the rules, if it turns out that they've actually made improvements, they've added complexity, and that adds depth, or whether or not they've just taped a whole bunch of, shiny bells to something that was perfectly functional on its own.
Yeah. But no, by the end, because it was a really hot day, it was quite a hot place because there was a lot of other people in there. And yeah, we ended up finishing our jelly babies, finishing our drinks, having a cup of water, and then going and just finding a beer garden to sit in. Because, good lord, having to think that much in a hot room surrounded by people... It's not ideal.
All right. Well, I think this is a good spot to take a break. This is going to be we're not even doing segments at this point. This is just the halfway point in the TMCJ podcast. You will hear us again momentarily for segment 3. Fuck it. We're back with the shit. I forgot how I used to do these intros. It's been so long. We're back
segment
to
the
3. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. This is the second half of the podcast, which normally is called segment 3 for reasons we're not going to get into. I want to lead this off right away with something that has been... It was something that kind of had been just percolating in the back of my mind, and I didn't really have I couldn't really figure out what it was until recently. So, Disney in particular has been on a big kick of remaking their old animated classics in live action, right?
Yep. Unfortunately, yep.
Yeah, and there's been like some middling successes. Like the Beauty and the Beast one supposedly is pretty good.
Can you imagine if they made Pocahontas?
Oh, if they did, like Pocahontas would shoot John Smith in the face in the new version.
There would be so much on edgeness throughout the whole fucking film, I feel like.
Yeah. So what I don't really want to, what I was thinking about is less about the kind of the remaking it for the quote unquote modern audiences, which basically just means we're gonna follow the new version of the Hays Code. Do you know what the Hays Code is?
Nope.
All right, the Hays Code was a film code from early Hollywood, and it was like you couldn't make a movie where the criminal won. You couldn't make a movie that showed somebody using drugs and not falling over in a ditch and dying. And it was a moral code for Hollywood, and they had to follow that code to make their movies. We've got a new version of that now. It's not official, but that's essentially what they're doing these days too. That's not really what I was thinking about. What I was thinking about is, what are you really gaining from making these movies live action? Because in almost every single case, the original animated versions look better.
Yeah, of course they do.
Like, you got the fanciest CGI, you get the photorealistic version of, Sebastian or whatever in the new Little Mermaid movie. But I still would rather see the bright and colorful, like, undersea, like, wonderland that they didn't. You could really only do that with, like, animation. You can't do that as well with live action. Or, from what I've seen of the movie, they didn't even try. Like, it looks like a Gears of War game. It's all, like, bland and dark and...
Yeah, it looked pretty unappetizing to me. So, well, I haven't seen the original, but I know of it. It's the one with the penis towers under the water.
Well, and this is where I was going with this. Is I feel like the same thing kind of applies to video games. I feel like, especially with AAA games, like the endless pursuit of just like graphics and photorealism, yeah, or the remastering too. That too. Like, what are you really getting out of it? Because.
Well, you know what they're getting out of it, guys. This is a question that you're asking which you already know the answer to.
I'll take it back. I know that the companies are getting money out of it, but I'm saying as a consumer, as a player, as like a gamer, or a person who enjoys these original works.
Yeah.
What do we get out of it? And my thinking is...
Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't realize you had an answer.
And my answer to it is very little. Like, you're essentially watching somebody take something that was already done very well and then trying to do it better, and more often than not doing it worse.
What you're getting out of it as a consumer, which is what sells all of these shitty remakes, is nostalgia.
But if I want nostalgia
of, I remember this thing that was really good, I really want to see how it's progressed and evolved since I saw it as a kid. And then they get served, it doesn't matter what they get served. It could be a 10-second reel of a meme. And people would still pay to fucking see it because they're like, I have to know how this ends.
Yeah,
or how they've changed it.
But I think it's unsustainable because... So I'll give you a couple examples. There's a comedian that I listened to, and he found out they were doing the live-action remake of Dumbo. Now, the live-action remake of Dumbo is apparently very dark, from what I've heard, especially compared to the original. Dark in terms of it's a little bit more...
I mean, yeah, they're showing basically the animal cruelty that went on, but they don't really... It's a lot easier to picture a real-world thing that was horrific when it's in, quote-unquote, the flesh, but it's still not anything like the treatment with which the animals were given in
reality. Yeah. The reason I bring... So the person I'm thinking of, he said that like he took his daughter to see the movie, who was, some single-digit age. She was like, I don't know, maybe 7 years old or something like that. And he was thinking it was going to be like the cartoon Dumbo that he remembered growing up, and so he went to see it, and
I think Dumbo was still pretty sad, the original.
It was, but it was a cartoon, and so you have that level of removal from reality.
Yeah.
And I think that seeing it in that live action format like that, he was like, "Oh, this is dark," and like his kid was not liking it, and so they ended up leaving the theater. I think that with a lot of these live action remakes, what's happening is people are doing exactly what you're saying. They're like, "Oh, I remember this movie. Oh, I have nostalgia for this. I'm going to take my kids to see this, or I'm going to go see this because I remember it from when I was a kid." And then they go to see it, and it's just like either a shitty approximation of what they remember, or it's not the wholesome family fun time that they wanted for their child.
Well, what they could be attempting, the movie makers, and this is playing devil's advocate for the movie producers, is they could be trying the Harry Potter effect. That is to say, the audience has grown up now, so let's make a film which still matches the same audience, because they're the ones who have the nostalgia, so they're the ones who are going to coming back to watch it, but we want to make it more suited to their age range now. However, Harry Potter did it as a gradual change over many films.
Yeah.
Whereas going from the Little Mermaid happy comic cheerful fun time to the Little Mermaid kills Hitler is a bit sorry, I don't know why they is a bit of more of a jump. It's a bit more of a jump.
Yeah, and I think if they are doing that, then they're horribly incompetent, because from what I've seen, they're just doing like they're not enhancing them. They're trying to do like shot for shot remakes of the movies in a lot of cases.
Oh, are they? Okay.
But
I've got to say, I haven't. I don't think I've seen. I think I've seen the Beauty and the Beast remake.
That's the only one I've seen. The other ones are the other ones. What I know about them, I'm getting secondhand from friends and family who have seen them.
I can't think of any. I would love to see Moana as a. I'd love to see them try and make Moana.
So they were already talking about this. You haven't heard about this? They are talking about it. The movie's only like 7 years old, and they're already talking about doing a live action remake of it.
It's 7 years old? Fuck, I was like 3. No, I would love to see Fat the Rock.
Didn't Moana come out in 2016?
It could have done. And B, I would love to see what they're gonna do with what was it? Not Moto. No, that's a fucking Madagascar reference.
The big
Tamatoa.
Crab, the big crab guy.
Yeah, Tamatoa. Yep. Because how the fuck are they going to represent that in? If they're gonna CGI it, a giant fucking crab encrusted with all these golden jewels. That's gonna be terrifying.
Have you seen the screenshots of how they CGI'd the Sebastian and Flounder from Little Mermaid?
No.
They look awful.
I mean,
Flounder is basically he's just a fish.
I've not seen the Little Mermaid. Is he the blue and yellow one?
Yes.
Okay. I think I might have seen a picture of him at some point in my life.
Sebastian's the crab.
The crab,
the Mr.
But no, I haven't seen the real life version of them.
Yeah. Look up. I recommend looking up screenshots of them actually, because they look fucking awful. They went for like real, like hardcore photorealism, and so it looks.
He's a crab. Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks like a crab.
And
what was the other one?
Flounder.
Yeah. The concept art looks like an illustration, for a start, for Flounder.
Mm.
The IRL footage, I don't know if this is from it can't be from the film, but it's just a fucking fish in a fish tank.
But I mean, that's what it looks like in the film.
Right.
Just looks like a fish.
The IRL version of The Little Mermaid looks like a still taken from... What's the one with David Bowie in the maze? Labyrinth. It looks like that era of cinematography.
It has a very dark and grimy... From everything I've seen of it, it has a very like dark and gritty kind of look to it, which is very different than the kind of
yeah, of course.
What is it? The bright and colorful, wondrous kind of appeal that the original one had.
Do you think? Because I just thought of one where I think there's one Disney film I can think of that it might actually pay off for, and that's The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I think
that would, because that one has quite a dark story.
It is, and I don't think it's one of Disney's favorites, which is why it's not been reproduced yet.
Yeah.
But I think, because all of those things, all the aspects of it, there's no fantastical particular... there's the gargoyles.
There's the gargoyles, but you can argue that that's Quasimodo hallucinating to himself.
Yeah.
And talking to his imaginary friends. So
you don't even have to make Quasimodo...
That's a good point. Of all the Disney movies I can think of, that is one of the only ones that I could legitimately see that being done in live action and having it be appropriate.
And that could really be spectacular because it's showing how beautiful a person can be, like, on the inside, basically. Not to be too fucking cliche about things.
Yeah,
but it really speaks to this day and age's message of everyone can be basically whoever they want to be. Go on.
But I think even without that, like the oh shit, I lost what I was going to say. Sorry. But
and also I couldn't wait. I would not be able to wait for the Hellfire song in live action.
Oh, yeah.
I think that could be so good.
I fucking love that movie. But I think to what you were saying earlier about it being like a lot of them having like cliche messages. I mean, that's what you want in like a children's movie. Not cliche is maybe the wrong way to put it, but a timeless message.
Yeah, a simple message that everyone can understand and get behind without it being like. Right. It has to have a certain level of subtlety to it.
Yeah, it can't be preachy. It can't be the what's the fucking clip that came around from the TV show where they had the Falcon guy become Captain America. It was a Marvel TV show that was only on Disney Plus, and the clip became such a huge meme because at the very end of the series, he's talking to some politician. He's like, "You need to do better."
Oh, I was thinking about the Doctor Who episode with the future Earth, where they're like, "This is what happens to the planet when you pollute the planet, kids."
Exactly. They even fucking Captain Planet, which that was what that TV show was about stopping pollution and shit. Even that show was more subtle than that shit. But people are receptive to positive messages, but they don't like being preached to, and that's something I think is a big flaw. This has gone in a very different direction than I was thinking it was going to.
They could even get some really good, like there's several messages in Hunchback of Notre Dame which I think modern day audiences could really get behind, like the whole, what was it, the child being taken away from their mother? Yep. The refugee. I mean, okay, maybe they're trying to stay away from the whole refugees thing at the moment. I don't know much about.
I mean, they burnt. Oh, I can't say that on YouTube. There was an event that happened at Notre Dame in France, the actual Notre Dame in France.
Oh yeah, no, it burned down.
I can't. Yeah, well, and it potentially arson. So
yes, but I think it then got like super, like God, there were donations or something, and they skyrocketed what they needed or something.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing was, I don't know if you ever looked into it, the new design that they were planning on like replacing what was destroyed with.
No, I don't know about that.
Oh, it looked awful. It was like this super like modern glass up. It's like, what are you doing? Restore it. It's a historical thing. Restore it to how it looked before. It's just, anyway, I'm going to go off on a rant if we talk about that.
Yeah, no, that's yeah.
But you're right. The movie did have several messages because, I mean, You've got a couple subplots too, because you've got both Frollo and what the fuck is the main guy's name?
The priest.
What?
The priest.
No. Frollo's not a priest. He's a government administrator.
Okay, no, you said. Oh, is Frollo the villain?
Frollo's the villain. Yeah.
Sorry, I thought he was.
The other guy, the soldier man. who I can't remember his name. It doesn't matter. But the two of them, they're both part of the establishment. They're both part of like the governing body there, which in theory, like they're part of the same structure that's like, you know, trying to stomp out the gypsies. But the one guy, the soldier guy who's been out fighting the wars and who has come back, like he's got a much more like grounded and realistic perspective on things. He's like, these are just other people like you and me. Are their crimes really that bad? I just came from, you know, this war that was going on. And Frollo is so completely consumed with his own petty bureaucracy and being the king of his own little like corner of the world.
Even Frollo doubts himself and has serious like quandaries of whether he's doing the right thing.
Well,
and I think there's definitely some fucked up mental health stuff.
Oh, there.
I think that they could explore with that and say, you know, the guy had problems.
Well, with Frollo himself too, like he's definitely not a good person and he's definitely not a good parent, but he did raise Quasimodo in that movie. Like he did, you know, he may have done it in a fucked up way and kept him locked up in the tower, but he visited him regularly, he educated him. He, he kept him fed and clothed and sheltered. So, like, even he wasn't 100% a bad guy. Maybe like 90%. But still, like, he was still a bad person. But even, like, that's something that I think is missing in so many, like, of these modern remakes, too, is they've taken away a lot of the nuance. Because that's the one fear I have if they remade that movie, is that Frollo would be like a mustache-twirling, like cackling villain with absolutely no redeeming qualities whatsoever.
Like the villain from Aladdin.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, let me think about that. Did Jafar have any redeeming qualities in the original animated movie?
I can't even say he looked after his parrot, because he certainly didn't.
Yeah, I think... Thinking about that, I think Jafar might be... Yeah, I don't think he had any redeeming qualities whatsoever in the original animated movie. He was just like a power-hungry bureaucrat.
Yeah.
Who was trying to take over.
Hashtag just politicians.
Anyway, so this went off in a very different direction than I was expecting. One of the points I was thinking about with this is taking this from movies now and going to video games. I think the obsession with, like, you know, more and more like crazy hyper realistic graphics is not really the right way to go.
I think gaming's taken a turn away from that, though. Granted, not entirely with AAA games yet, because goodness knows COD has still got another 50 games in them. But almost all indie games have a different art style these days. A lot of big producers like Devolver Digital, known for their pixel art.
Yeah. So earlier today I was playing that I don't know, Soviet power fantasy game, the Atomic Hearts.
Yeah.
Because I have Xbox Game Pass, so they have that on there. I was playing it on the Xbox this afternoon, and beautiful looking game, absolutely beautiful looking game, but I can't really think of it going too much further beyond that, because like I was playing, I finally, after a very long period of time, I finally bought one. I have a 4K TV, and it's gorgeous. Being played on that, it's running at 60 FPS, but beyond that, like, what's the point of making the graphics any better? Like with a competitive shooter, I can see getting the FPS higher, because then that's going to help you with twitch reflexes and stuff like that. But in terms of actually making the game, unless it's like an artistic thing, like you want to make the most beautiful game possible, then maybe you want to enhance the graphics. But for like a normal game, I don't think you
even call that a game anymore. That is a visual experience.
Yeah, it's
I agree with you. I think games didn't need to keep updating their graphics about 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think we've hit the peak point. It's one of the reasons that, like, I mean,
or maybe our eyes are just getting worse and we just can't see the fucking shit.
So that's something I noticed a long time ago. A bunch of my I don't know if you've noticed this, because you don't wear glasses or contacts, right?
No.
So neither do I. One thing I noticed, a lot of the friends I had growing up in my hometown, a lot of more glasses. And the first time I went over one of their houses and they had like one of these new 4K 120 hertz like HD TVs.
Yeah.
And I was like noticing it, just like everything, it just looked very odd. And I couldn't really describe it to them, and they didn't notice any difference from that to the other one, other than like the picture was a little bit crisper.
Yeah.
But what you find is like there's an exponential drop off in what the human eye can see. Even people with really, really good eyesight, like the jump from say 480p up to 720 was huge, and from 720 to 1080p, that was huge. Then the jump from 1080 to 4K was big, but it wasn't as big as the jump from 720 to...
I haven't bothered to make that jump. Honestly, well, I prefer having money.
Well, and I agree with you. My monitor on my computer, this isn't a 4K monitor. It's a 2K one, which I think it strikes a nice balance. But then the jump from 4K to 8K, I have not personally seen an 8K, TV or computer screen, but from the people I've talked to, it's an even smaller, like, noticeable change looking at the two things, and they're significantly more expensive.
I will say I think the VR can do with the graphical update.
VR is because it's
very
right
much
on your
its own
eyeball.
kettle of fish. Yeah.
But
They really need to get a way of, because it is a pain in the ass adjusting that thing to not get migraines.
Oh god, yeah. I remember. I haven't used mine in like a year or so, but oh boy. Yeah, getting it all like calibrated to be at the right spot on your face. I will say that that's probably the one where 4K could potentially be useful, because for each of those lenses, because it's right there next to your eyes, so it's going to have a much better effect, or it's going to be much more noticeable and be indistinguishable from real life. But in terms of video games, I think what you want, if you're playing a game, you want it to be distinct. You want to be able to go like, okay, that's clearly an enemy, that's clearly an ally, or just to be pleasant to look at. It doesn't need to look realistic. It doesn't need to look like, I don't know, so HD that it's going to burn your fucking computer. I do remember back in the day playing...
All Retina.
playing Crysis. Because Crysis was... When I first got to college, Crysis 1... that was
I only played Crysis 3.
I played all three of them, 1, 2, and 3. We nearly set my laptop on fire our freshman year of college trying to run Crysis 1 on it, and it was running at like 5 FPS. We got it to run, but it nearly died. But that used to be the game that, like...
That was the test one.
The test game. And now... I don't know, I feel like...
These days you just put a fucking detailed pack on Minecraft and it'll blow my computer up.
Well, you see that, same with mine, honestly. I put enough on my computer, running a 3090.
Yeah.
Again, 3090, plenty of RAM in this thing, and...
Or just Twitch stream, that works too.
That's the CPU issue. I gotta update the CPU, because it can't multi-thread enough. But I think we've hit a point where the graphics are good enough. Like, you could make them better, but at that point, it's an artistic expression. So now the next thing is, like, we've got these good graphics. Now let's make it more efficient to, like, implement them.
Yeah.
And then you can... Now we're going to have, like, really good graphics games that have a lot more features. Because, like, you see, like, older games, like these are like Arcanum, we were talking about earlier.
Ugh.
There's tons of stuff in Arcanum, but they could put tons of stuff in it because the graphics were fairly, simple.
Arcanum could do with a reskin. I don't say that often for games, but honestly, Arcanum, if they re-released it today with modern-day graphics, I think it would garner a hell of a lot of a following.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's got a huge following we've seen already, even with the old graphics, so yeah.
Yeah. something you mentioned, which was about kind of the optimization for making it comfortable to play something, right?
Yeah.
I think I finally worked out why. One of the main reasons why I dislike playing games on the Switch, and why I find it harder to play games on a Switch than on any other console or PC. So, I was down in my local game scene the other day.
Yep.
And looking at the Switch games, obviously the pre-owned ones, because fuck me prices.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's Nintendo. Nintendo games never come down in price.
And I saw the Ezio collection was available on the Switch, so all 3 games in one, for £20, which...
It's pretty good.
Is still kind of pricey, but they're all excellent games. I've played through all of them before, multiple times. Love the series. It's
and
the only good
you'd
thing about
enjoy all of them
Assassin's
again.
Creed, pretty much. Yeah. It's a guaranteed win. So, I picked that up. And I remember not being a huge fan of like the races and things, the race quests.
Yeah, where you're doing like across the rooftop and yeah,
and dodging the guards and all that stuff. Because when you're on a PlayStation controller, eventually your palms get a bit sweaty and you start slipping off of the fucking joystick. Like, it's not always easy. On a Switch controllers, they have like halved all of the space between all of the buttons, and suddenly you're in like this claw grip.
Switch Pro controller.
Yes, actually, this is something that Alicia said while I was moaning and bitching about this. She was like, "Oh, Kaiser's got the one where it's, more spaced out." Yes, trying to run away from guards, and you have to hold forward on the left analog stick. You have to hold R2 for those PlayStation fans, or right trigger for Xbox. And then you have to hold X to do the extra sprint, so that you can actually go up walls and stuff, right?
And that
X
on that is very awkward, yeah.
No, wait, it's not an X, it's a B. Sorry, I went back to PlayStation again. It's a B, which for Xbox is
A. They flip A and B from Switch to Xbox. Yeah.
Fuck me. That's 3 different.
It's all over the place, man. Believe me, this confuses
you're holding
me too.
The analog stick forward, the right trigger, and the bottommost letter. The problem is the bottommost letter is right next to immediately above the other analog stick, and the other analog stick changes the direction that you're facing.
Yep.
So if you do it just a little bit too low, your dude will snap his neck upwards, and he'll just be staring into the sun while you're running away from 20 guards trying to clear a fucking building. And it just makes it very much not fun. I feel like the analog sticks on the Switch are less accurate. It could be just because they copy and pasted the game shamelessly, and then there were less directions, but there feels like I changed the analog stick a little bit, nothing happens. I change it a little bit more, and he does a fucking right angle.
There's a couple things. A lot of the times when they do these remasters, they might add like stronger dead zones or analog acceleration. Sorry, remaster, port, whatever word you want to use. Yeah,
because I was hoping when I got it, I was like, oh, maybe because it's the Switch.
Either way, it never came out on the Switch before. They've moved it to the Switch.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had the same issue with the. Well, the thing is also, I feel like the Switch's controllers, like I don't have huge hands, but the Switch's controllers feel like just little baby popsicle sticks in my fucking hands.
Even with the added like things that you put around them, like the little cases, they still feel too small.
This is why I ended up finally buying the Switch Pro controller. And I bought it because I wanted to use it at home and actually play games from my couch without having to, like, again, cramp up my hands playing the thing. The Switch controllers are made for baby hands, which it's great.
Maybe that's a sign that we're too old for playing video games, but fuck you, Nintendo.
Hey, my hands were roughly the same size when I was in high school. So,
and to be fair, no baby should be playing Assassin's Creed.
Or Factorio, for that matter, which is what I was playing on it recently.
I think no baby would want to play Factorio, is the thing.
I don't know. Baby me might have wanted to. Regardless, I know exactly what you mean, and it's kind of a compromise that you get with that system, though, because in order for it to be that sort of portable concept that they had, it needed to be that way, which is, I think, why the Pro controller, at least when you're playing on a TV in a room, is essential. But yeah, even playing it in the mode where it's like docked onto the screen is a absolute pain in the ass because, I mean, but what are you going to do? I mean, mostly play it on an airplane.
The other thing, which they probably never even thought about when they ported it to the Switch, which was definitely an addition for the original PlayStation version, is that in the PlayStation, you had trophies. Every game had trophies on the PlayStation, and there were little challenges that you had to achieve just to get a little sticker, a check mark against that game.
Same thing on Xbox, achievements.
They meant absolutely nothing, but at the same time, they meant everything to PlayStation gamers.
It felt good.
And Xbox gamers. Because they were a show of how good of a gamer you really were.
Well, I mean, so in high school, Xbox 360, it was always all my high school friends, like all of us, we played Xbox 360, and so it was like, I play this game. It's like, oh, George got this achievement. It's like, oh, that's pretty awesome. Like, how the fuck did he do that? Because it was something,
he fucking cheated.
Something that was absolutely ridiculous. And it felt good to just like compare your stats to other people. I mean, I feel like that's just something that's fun to do.
But on the Switch, you obviously don't have that. And so I was playing through the game thinking, this is easier than I remember. And don't get me wrong, I was a lot younger when I played it, but this feels significantly easier. And then I remembered, halfway through a mission, I was like, I had to do this mission last time, like, without getting hit once. Why am I not doing that now?
Yeah.
Oh, there's no achievements. It's a lot easier of a game now because there's no challenge.
Yeah. And that's something that...
It's the fucking first one, collecting all the fucking feathers, that was a trophy, right?
It was,
What's the fucking point in doing it now? There's no ding.
The point is, if you collect all the feathers, your mother will give you the cloak that makes everyone attack you.
Auditory cape, which is a very cool logo and a very cool cape, don't get me wrong, but you don't get the dopamine of, I've got this awesome thing now, because it is a shit cape, gaming-wise, and you have nothing to be like, bam, showing off to other people, I collected all 100 feathers, which took me fucking hours.
I think it comes down to this being like, achievements are like, for people who do play a lot of video games, achievements have a very similar feel to like somebody who gets like a certification, right? Or something like that, or like literally a trophy. That's what it's called. But it's something that you put in your wall. It's like, see, I did that. I accomplished this thing. I went through this program. I did this.
And then normally that thought ends with, now I'm never doing this again.
Exactly. It's like me with fucking differential equations. I've never used that. That class was a pain in the ass. I've never used it since, but I felt good when I got out of it.
But it's like last year, I think, I got the Spyro trilogy on PC, and I decided that I wanted 100% all three of them, just for the fact that I could say, bam, 100%ed all three of them. I don't think I'm going to do that. I came to Assassin's Creed wanting to do that, and then I thought, there's nothing that actually says that I've done it other than me knowing that I've done it, which I know I've done in the past anyway, so I don't think I'm going to bother doing all the stupid like brawls that get you like 500 florins, the races, the feathers, the fucking glyphs on the walls, which I hated.
So you can see behind me, but the people listening can't. Behind me on the shelf is an N64, and in that N64 is Mega Man 64, which is the N64 port of the PlayStation game Mega Man Legends. Great games, by the way. Great. They were like action RPGs. They actually established some cool lore with an alternate universe Mega Man. Anyway, recently, and by recently I mean like a year and a half ago, is before I moved into this house, I beat the game. I beat Mega Man Legends 1 and 2. 100%ed them, beat all the side quests, did everything. PlayStation 1 game, so no achievements whatsoever, but I was just like, I never did it as a kid. Like, I beat the games, but I never, like, really got all the content in them. And so I finally did beat them the whole way through and just kind of put them down. But it would be nice. It was still satisfying to do it, but it would be nice if there was just that little, like, thing that could be there. Just be,
that little check mark, yeah.
A little check mark that goes like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah. That's why I'm currently have been a slight tangent. It's going to be very short. On RuneScape, I have been cooking Shark for the past 4 days because I'm level 97 in cooking now, and I have never gotten to 99 in a skill before. And this is a game that I have been playing since I was a child. I'm on 97, 2 fucking levels off. Oh. God. So I am waiting for that fucking thing. I get a special cape, much like Ezio Auditore with his fucking feathers, except this one means I can't burn pies anymore.
So, you know what? This was a couple years back. I was talking to Scott, and we realized that our old accounts, like on Bungie.net, the people who made Halo 1 and 2 and 3, they still exist. So you can still go back and see your game profile from back in the day. And I was looking back, and it keeps track of how many games you played. And Halo 2... keeping in mind that a game can last anywhere from like 10 to like 20 minutes. Some of the longer ones might go a little longer than that. Some of the shorter ones might finish quicker. I've had almost 11,000 Halo 2 games on my profile. Which is... consider
how long is a game?
Between 10 and 20 minutes on average.
Right,
so let's say 15. Actually, you know what? Let's do that calculation live. How many hours does that equate to? Let's say it's 15 minutes on average, because it'll work out times 10,500, because I don't think it was quite 11,000. All right, that's 157,500 minutes, or 2,625 hours, or 109 days of Halo 2 that I played.
Nice.
It was a good chunk of my high school life.
Oh yeah. I just looked at my current RuneScape profile the other day, and it said 41 days of playing non-stop. I was like, oh. Dude.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was also like, you know, that was the game that we'd play like after school. So you get home and sometimes we'd just like hop into a custom game and fuck around. And I wouldn't even be... we actually used to use... this was before like the days of Discord and Ventrilo and stuff like that. We would hop onto Halo 2 lobbies and use that just as like a chat room like this.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, a couple of my friends would be watching something on TV. I'd be doing my homework, and we'd just be sitting there. And then after one or the other finished, we'd be like, all right, let's play a few games.
But yes,
we've now gone into nostalgia, so I think this is probably around the time we want to wrap it up. Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts? Anything to wrap out the episode? Any last things that you want to say before we close out?
Well, this is going out in the future. I was gonna say we're probably gonna be doing some Twitch tonight, so head over to Twitch. But then I thought this is not gonna happen tonight.
Well, then you could just say that, hey, we've been streaming a lot more on Twitch.
We've been. Kaiser renounced his faith live on stream tonight. Okay.
I've renounced my faith in you. No, but if anyone wants to take a look, because we have been posting to Twitch a lot more than we have to YouTube, it is twitch.tv/Kaiser, KYZZER, if you want to take a look. We are trying to put more out on the YouTube channel again. I've got a few videos coming out. The Hot Chip one just went out. We're going to try to put together a channel promo video.
One. I was like, that was a Hot Chick one?
Hot Chip one.
Yeah.
Yes, Blue was my beautiful co-host in the Hot Chick episode. Anyway, that's where we can end it off. This is going to be the end of episode 101 of the TMCJ podcast. Thank you all for listening, and you will hear us again next time for episode 102.